Welcome to First Glance with Jody Vance. You recognize that guy? Is he there? Is he there? Is he there? One day we'll be in person, dude. One day we're going to have our own studio conversation and we're just going to riff in person. I look forward to that day. How you doing, Chris? Parry?
As soon as we get wrestling on Check TV, we'll just be able to just slide right in and out.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Call those people. Check TV, for those just tuning in, the only employee-owned media outlet in North America.
Yeah, I remember I was working at the Vancouver Sun, I think, when that station went and the employees said, well, with our buyout money, maybe we'll just take the keys. Thanks very much. And the rest is history. And I love that what they're doing with that is basically the same thing that we were doing is like when they see people cut adrift that have talent, that they say, hey, why don't you come over here and do a show?
Yeah.
And
own it and do, because it is very similar to what our meetings were like in the couple of years leading up to us getting First Glance off the ground, which now, is it 2 years?
Time flies, man.
Jesus, that just hit.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I love it. Anyways, I've talked to so many cool people as part of First Glance with Jody Vance. I learned so much from the investors that you pull together at EQUITY.GURU, and I always appreciate our opportunities to chat. But yeah, it was kind of what you initially, you're like, I need you on my TV. We need to do something. And in doing this type of work along with the history, Steele and Vance was born because we own it.
Yeah. Well, look, like there's so many talented people out there in corporate media that with monotonous regularity get their throats cut. And even before they get their throats cut, get sort of like, metaphorically throat cut by being dumbed down to nothing, right? Being told, don't talk about this because this company's an advertiser. Don't talk about this because it doesn't go with their bosses politically. It seems to me that the Czech guys just basically said, hey, Steele, hey, Vance, put on a show.
Yeah. Take this time slot. How many days a week do you want to do it was the question. And we're like, one. Let's start with one. I will say in my career, in my experience, my biggest struggle was lesser. So I've never had anybody tell me what I could or could not say. Never had anybody tell me I couldn't say something about an advertiser. I've been very lucky in that. Maybe they were afraid that I'd turn around and tell them where to go. My problem was the brevity. It's like, okay, here's 3 minutes with Tom Green.
Right.
What's 3 minutes with Tom Green? Hi, Tom. And he, takes a pull off an e-cigarette and everybody in the room freaks out because not allowed to do that. And I'm like, oh, he just did it. Nice meeting you. Talk to you later. And now at least there's some significant
people used to say that Larry King was like a heck of an interviewer. And I always thought like I'd never seen him do a follow-up question. So I'm not sure how one is an interviewer if one doesn't take in what's being said, process it, and then add to it, which I think is we often see, not to blow our own horn too much with First Glance, but we often see that people that are our competitors will interview a CEO for 3 minutes and there's a fake green screen behind them. And they ask 3 questions that are basically like, so tell us about your pitch.
Yeah.
What drew you to this great company of yours? And there's no actual information beyond what you'd see on the front page of their website, right? The conversation is the kicker. Like, how many times do we talk to people and get past the pitch and into this? So what's your day look like? Like, how often do you see your kids? Like, get to the person who's actually, the jockey on the horse rather than...
I just had that's so funny. I just had a jockey and horse conversation with Braden Sutton, the BC Budco. And we had a totally different list of things that we were going to talk to him about because he's got so much heritage in this lane that we actually started First Glance with Jody Vance. He's like, wait, I don't think that's what we're talking about today. And I'm like, oh, really? And he gave me 3 points. And I'm like, great, don't tell me anymore. Let's hit record. And so when you check out our most recent, because I told him, I'm not an expert on this lane. I'm not an expert on markets. I'm not an expert on business. I'm an interviewer.
Right.
I want your story.
That's the shortage of what's on corporate news right now, right? Like you see CNN doesn't say, here are the 10 stories that are most important today. They say, here's one story that we've been talking about for 6 hours.
Over and over and over.
Think tank, and here's a guy from the Democrats, and here's a guy from the Republicans. I don't need 2 hours on one story. I need to know, like, what else is happening? Like, there's a war in the Ukraine. Can we talk about that maybe? There's an Arctic shelf maybe just fell into the ocean. Like, why do I need to talk about what color suspenders random politician wore today?
Exactly. And going back to the Steele and Vance show with Check Media, checkmedia.ca if you want to find our little program, because all of our shows live on there. It's very open. You don't have to sign up for anything. It's like signing up for First Glance with Jody Vance. It just is there. They have absolutely no say or concern with what our content is. Linda Steele and I have a couple meetings a week. We book our guests. We can say whatever we want. We sit and drink wine and eat chips and talk about the news. And our whole goal on a weekly 1 hour is to give the people who are like, I'm done with that news cycle that you just explained, that 2.5 hours on one topic, because they want to get everybody who's flipping channels to stop for a second. We collect all of those and take the ones that need to land on a local kitchen table. And it's very rewarding at the end of our show taping, or when it airs, just a couple of hours after we put it in the can.
Yeah.
And we put it in the can so that we can deliver it, because Check works with fewer people, right? There's no huge corporate. There's no run it through the PR people first. And there's not a huge control room. Chris Parry, do you want to know how many people work on our show in our little studio setup?
If it's less than 10, I don't know how you do it. Come on.
It's Linda Steele,
Yeah.
myself,
Yep.
our executive producer, Brad McLeod, Nina Savage, and Derek Wong. 5 people. Derek is like an octopus. He's all things in a control room. Nina sets up the cameras and makes sure our audio is good. And Linda and I do the rest. There are no scripts. There's no put it in the teleprompter, run it through. Brad's on the side editing video and making sure we've got all of the right credits to go in, because we're using it. But we use everybody's stuff and we give everybody credit. We just tell them the story. And it's so refreshing, difficult. I don't know what we'd do without our mighty team of 2 technical people, but holy moly. Like,
and real Canadian content, not that fake ass Canadian content that they run on the other channels that rhymes with Shmee Entertainment, where they take US stuff, repackage it, and have a local host. Like real Canadian content for real Canadian people. You know, I wonder also, one question I have, like when I was working at the Vancouver Sun, when the Japanese tsunami happened, we pulled everyone out of bed and ran all night on the internet with, like, because everyone on the East Coast was asleep. Everyone in Europe wasn't awake yet. So the entire world's attention was focused on us. So we were balls to the wall, bonkers covering that thing. 50 million page views overnight. Normally you get about 100,000. The next day we got in trouble because we were told, well, we don't sell ads to people outside of Vancouver. Do you know how much money it costs to serve all that content around the world? There was no parades. There was no awards. There was like, don't do that again. Go to sleep. And at that moment, I'm done with legacy media.
Yeah. And
you're proof, you know, that I think there are a lot of people that have been in traditional media for a while that are like, well, I can't leave because, you know, I need the imprimatur of the masthead, right? I am X person reporting for X newspaper. They don't realize that they are the masthead, the individual. Now in the age of social media, people don't follow CKNW as much as they follow Jody Vance right? They don't follow CNN as much as they follow Anderson Cooper And so people, you know, now, especially if you're a young person that's looking into media, like it's not at all
your brand.
The crippled industry that everyone says it is. It's the opposite, because now you can go and you don't have to put on a fedora and have a little press card on the side. Just go cover things and be it, you know? And then you can be ruthless. You don't have to worry about advertisers and ratings and some suit that's never put on in a journalist degree telling you what's good and what's not. I love that what you're doing is self-propelled. It's not somebody giving you a list of stories that you should do today, and you come in and say, all right, where's the cue card? It's like, let's go.
Yeah. Thank you for that. You helped me right off the hop, because I didn't realize that starting in just my backyard, my little blog that I started when I got top line from breakfast television, which looking back is the best thing that ever happened to me. It pushed me to believe that, you know, I got to start doing the thing, do what I want to do, follow my passion wherever that leads. I'll always get a job. Like I can be the best Subway sandwich artist you've ever seen in your life. I've been a waitress for years. I've got my culinary certificate. I can do the things if I need to do that, but I like doing this.
Yeah.
And people like you giving me the opportunity to be the learn on the job with First Glance, because that's the part that brings people in, right? Like, is that I'm not, I know everything and watch me. It's I'm learning and you get to learn with me. And if you got a question, tell me. And then we put it out onto the socials, and then people align it with, oh, you're also with Al Jazeera English as a correspondent. You're also with, you know, check doing this TV show. I am filling in at CKNW. I love doing it, but I don't work there. When people are like, oh, you're owned, Chorus owns you, you're bought and paid for. I'm like, actually,
of all people,
I'm not at all.
I
love it.
The first conversation that we had about maybe doing something together, you're like, hey man, I don't know anything about the stock market. And I remember saying, yes,
Exactly.
that's the point. Like it's a journey together. You're going to have the same questions as the person viewing. There are plenty of guys with bow ties that, you know everything about the stock market. And all that happens is they say, well, you know, this is going to happen. And the entire internet mocks them.
Yes.
Half the time they're wrong anyway, you know?
First year of First Glance, I said almost every episode, this isn't just for the expensive suit with the pocket square. And because I thought I need an expensive suit and pocket square to do this. And I'm like, actually, I don't. I need to like be myself.
Yeah.
Have you in my living room. You know, this is not a green screen. This is my house.
Pick the cat and we'll know for sure.
It's crazy.
So let me ask you about the realities of running your own show. Like usually you'd be a part of a great machine.
Yeah.
And, you know, you do as pretty much they tell you to do. In this instance, like how long does it take you to prepare to do 1 hour of TV?
Well, it depends on what the hour is and what it entails. I would say it takes me longer to put together a 2-minute story for Al Jazeera English than it does for me to do a 1 hour Steele and Vance program, because in my collecting of I have to be ready to go on CKNW. If they call me now to be on at 3:00 this afternoon, I have to be ready to go. I have to be news cycle. What's happening? What's my opinion on it? Right. I'm paid for my opinion. When I'm doing Al Jazeera, I have to do my due diligence, find the story, as you well know, source it, make sure I'm accurate, make sure I've got visuals that go along with it. Then I need to edit together and have that script vetted by the assignment desk. There's a process involved with news that's different. So it really does depend on what my day might entail as to how much goes into each part of my day. Like with First Glance, for example, Galen and I will work together. I will get a First Glance info sheet. I oftentimes know the company that I'm going to be speaking with because I may have talked to them before because we're a couple of years in now. But I want to look a little bit more, make sure I got a little something, even if I'm going to that person's Twitter handle and noticing that, oh, you went on a vacation, lucky you. And I can relax them a little off the top before we get into the nuts and bolts. You know, that's what I like to not hang my hat on, but I care, Chris. I want my interview subject. That's why this is weird when you're like, let's talk about you. I'm like, curveball. But I want people to leave an interview with me feeling like they were seen, they were heard, they got some space. So I don't over prepare. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm fine with disagreeing and getting along. That's key.
That was the genesis of you and me becoming friends.
Oh like, my God, please tell that story. Yeah.
It was like back in the day, house prices were going up and people were complaining, and you were like, you know what, man, I just went out and worked in bars and worked 3 shifts and got my deposit together. And I was like, well, that must have been great for you. And
good for you.
And so we went sort of and then agreed to disagree, which is to me the sign of a human being, when you can just basically say, I think your opinion sucks. Also, how's it going?
Yeah, we should have coffee.
Yeah.
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 And then it was like, we should work together. And that
Yeah.
was so long ago now. That's like 6 years ago.
I know, but I have those conversations with people occasionally, like, Chuck Adler, Rob
Yeah.
Fay,
Yeah.
where it's just like, look, man, I don't know what we're going to do, but at some point we should work together. And I think there's a lot of, how they say, douchebags in the world.
Is that how they say it?
I believe that's the French. But when you find somebody who's just like on a similar wavelength and who is really in it to do good work, and they're out there, they're hustling hard for the man, and maybe the man doesn't really see the value. The man respects people that say, yes, sir, I'll be there 5 minutes early and leave 5 minutes late. They don't often look past that and say, this guy's funny, or this woman, she's really informed, or she's really good at communicating with people who, especially in my market, often when they get in front of the camera, they're like, ugh, this flop sweat, and they're like, so what are you going to ask me? I need to know ahead of time. And every time someone says, like, can you give us the questions before we talk to Jody? It's always, no. Like, we're going to have a conversation. You should be fine with that. That should be easy for you. You're human.
I'll tell you what I say to them when they're the newbies, when I have a firster on the first glance, as I say, first, I'm not an expert. Second, I don't want your deck. Third, it's like we're hanging out at the end of the bar or at the coffee shop. And I just want you to tell me about yourself and your business. That's the vibe. We're just hanging out together. And I really want that in any scenario. And oftentimes I will sit with unbelievably famous or celebrity people and just be like, I'm so glad I didn't realize the magnitude of the person I was speaking with beforehand, because I might have changed who I am. And I have to remind myself, it doesn't matter if that's Wayne Gretzky, because I did spend the day with Wayne Gretzky. It was one of those things where it's like, we need somebody to MC his fashion show. It was back in 1999. And I was going to be like, in and out. And they're like, they almost said, don't look at him. One of those things. They vetted me 9 ways from Sunday. I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm just going to go in and do the thing. And then I met him and he's like, you're staying with me, right? Like the people with the wristbands over here are all going to get their stuff autographed, but I've got these pictures. I'm going to sign them and you take them out. And I want you to look for kids on shoulders. And I'm looking at him like, that's the guy that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
The guy that walks in and says hello to everybody, learns everybody's name, and then on the way out says goodbye to everybody by name. I mean, if that isn't the coolest Gretzky story, yes, I can tell you all about his statistics. How many goals, how many shots on net, go to where the puck will be, blah, blah, blah. You miss 100% of the shots you never take. All of it. I can, but he's got that memory where he knows 300 people's names in one shot. What? Right. Those are the reasons why I love my job.
Was that the moment where you sat in front of somebody who, like, the biggest moment where somebody sat in front of you and you just thought, holy shit, look where I am?
Yeah. Actually, I think the first time that happened to me was when I moved to Toronto to do Sports Central AM, and I just arrived there. I'm like, don't know anybody, moved to a different city. I'm like, okay. I'm like, why not? Why would I say no? And my first interview, Bobby Orr.
That's good. It's a good starting point.
And all the guys warned me, he's an asshole. He's going to be so mean to you. He's a very difficult, And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And he came in and he was nice as he could be. And everybody in Sportsnet came and watched. You remember that big monitor wall? They were all lined. It actually changed the policy after this. They made it so people weren't allowed to come in and watch the interviews, which kind of sucked. But anyway.
That's sort of a broadcast news moment, where it's just like, oh, like this Vance character, she knows what's up.
That's kind of you. Oh, well, lucky. You gotta be lucky to be good.
You were at a time where women were not permitted in locker rooms, let alone anchoring the national sports center coverage. So I'm sure you had a lot of moments there where you came in and did your job and surprised people who weren't used to women actually being able to do a job.
There's also something to be said for not noticing that part too. Because I never had I'm the bee's knees. I was just like, okay, what am I doing next?
Thank goodness there wasn't social media. Yeah.
There's that. People are very kind to me though, other than a couple of assholes. People are generally kind. I've got one pleading guilty to criminal online harassment. That's coming.
That's fantastic. And it's
Yeah,
fantastic you actually like took it to him, because how many people just go, I'm just glad that they're not bothering me anymore. And they
he's
go,
entering a guilty plea at our court date in the beginning of March. I've seen it through 6 years.
Wow.
I will update you on here. We'll do an update on here.
Okay.
You'll get the scoop.
Amazing.
I gotta go. I gotta interview people.
All right. I mean, I figured I'm people, but you know, all right.
Clearly, do you really want to keep? Do you want to keep Plurilock waiting?
No,
that's what you're doing. Bye, Chris.
See you, Jones.
That's the guru, Chris Parry. First Glance with Jody Vance. Check in. Bye.